Donald Trump pleaded with China's leader, Xi Jinping, for help to be re-elected and promised Turkey's president that he would intervene in a U.S. judicial case against a major Turkish state lender, a new book claims. The U.S. president is also alleged to have called former Republican President George W. Bush stupid. These are some of the explosive claims in a coming book by Mr. Trump's former national security advisor, John Bolton. Excerpts of the book, The Room Where It Happened, a White House memoir, were published on Wednesday in U.S. newspapers including The Washington Post, The New York Times, and The Wall Street Journal. Mr. Trump met the Chinese premier at a summit last June in Japan. Mr. Bolton writes that he stunningly turned the conversation to the U.S. presidential election, alluding to China's economic capability to affect the ongoing campaigns, pleading with Xi to ensure he'd win. Donald Trump pleaded with China's leader Xi Jinping for help to win re-election in 2020, John Bolton writes in an explosive new book. AFP Mr. Trump stressed the importance of American farmers and how increased Chinese purchases of soybeans and wheat could affect the election result in the U.S. During a one-on-one meeting at the June 2019 Group of 20 summit in Japan, Xi complained to Trump about China critics in the United States, Mr. Bolton writes. He says Mr. Trump immediately assumed Mr. Xi meant the Democrats. I would print Trump's exact words, but the government's pre-publication review process has decided otherwise, said Mr. Bolton, who is facing a lawsuit from the Department of Justice to block the book's publication. He claims Mr. Trump assured Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan that he would intervene personally to end a lawsuit in New York against major Turkish lender Halkbank. In May 2018, Mr. Erdogan handed Mr. Trump a memo proclaiming the innocence of Halkbank. Mr. Bolton writes, Turkey's state-owned bank is charged with embezzlement, conspiracy, money laundering, fraud and helping Iran to evade sanctions. Trump then told Erdogan he would take care of things, explaining that the Southern District prosecutors were not his people, but were Obama people, a problem that would be fixed when they were replaced by his people, Mr. Bolton writes. He says he was frustrated with Mr. Trump's willingness to appease autocrats and requested a meeting with Attorney General William Barr in 2019 to discuss the matter. CNN reported that Mr. Barr, under instructions from the president, personally led an effort to negotiate a settlement with the bank that would have allowed it to avoid an indictment after pressure from Mr. Erdogan. U.S. President Donald Trump and Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, take part in a joint press conference in the East Room of the White House in Washington, D.C. on November 13, 2019. AFP Mr. Bolton writes that the U.S. president wanted to withdraw from the Middle East and Afghanistan, saying, I want to get out of everything. Mr. Trump, whose administration has been negotiating with the Taliban, blames Mr. Bush for America's difficulties in Afghanistan. This was done by a stupid person named George Bush, he said. The book paints a picture of infighting and backstabbing among Mr. Trump's circle of advisors, and claims the president had problems with basic international facts he did not seem to know, for example, that Britain is a nuclear power, and asked if Finland is part of Russia, Mr. Bolton writes. The book is scheduled for release in the US on Tuesday, updated, June 18, 2020 10:52 a.m. Let's block ads. Why?
Show your love for him. Click the link in description. Thanks for watching.